Hello, and welcome to another episode of Winning Where It Matters. My name is Kyei Amoako, and it's a pleasure to have you join me once again. I recently had a difficult conversation. This is a conversation that I knew I had to have. Person was crossing some boundaries, and I wasn't sure they were aware because they had been doing this for a while, and with nothing being said, their behavior was beginning to feel like a norm. And so I thought about it. Now, in hindsight, I could have had this conversation earlier, but I waited and thought about how to go about it. Just my preference is to think about things like that a little bit more before I launch into them. Now, for many of us, when there's a difficult conversation to be had and we don't have it right away, we tend to feel like we're hesitating, we're being weak, or we're delaying. And that could be true. But it is also true that if a conversation has to be had, it is as important to have the conversation as it is to have it the right way and say things the right way. And so wisdom could kind of pump the brakes a little bit on you going out there and giving the feedback, because not every difficult conversation has to be had right away. And knowing the difference is important. As I thought through what I was going to say and how I was going to say it and all of that, I kept asking myself what my goal was, right, with that conversation, because I needed to think through that and figure out why am I even trying to have the conversation, and am I trying to just make them aware of what boundaries they're crossing, or am I expecting them to apologize? Am I trying to change how they act? Now, there were a few thoughts, and I had to kind of work through all of that and get clearer on my goals, right? And the more I thought about what my goals were in that conversation, the more my thinking shifted from should I say something or I should say something, more to how do I say things the right way, right? Because I'm very much aware that people sometimes will just push back or deny or even get offended that you give them feedback. And so saying the right things the right saying the hard things the right way could make the conversation go better. And that's the part that I can't control. I can't control how they react. I can control how I say what I say. So as I start like thinking through it, the thoughts kind of like crystallized, and I was like, I want to focus more on what I say, how I say it, and when I say it, just so that there's the best response and reception to what I have to say. So I had clearer goals, right? Thinking through it, my goals became a little clearer. And in my case, in saying things the right way and saying it at the right time, I was just hoping to accomplish two things: create awareness and encourage behavior change. That's all I can do. Create awareness and encourage behavior change, by having that conversation. So in my case, it went well. I think they hurt me and I felt hurt too. And so as I thought through how to convey that experience in this conversation and sharing some tips about having difficult conversations, I bottled them into three things. Three things. I like three things because it's easier to remember three things. Thought about having clear goals, right? Before you're going to have a difficult conversation, just think through that. What are your goals? Just pick one or two and get clear on it. Because the clearer your goals, the easier it is for you to return to something when the conversation starts drifting off into, you know, nowhere land. Um, and my goals, like I shared a moment ago, was to create awareness and to encourage behavior change. And I had thought about what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. And that gave some guardrails to how I controlled my behavior in that difficult conversation. The other thing that I think is super important is that timing and setting matters, even if it means you have to wait a little longer. Now, not every difficult conversation has to happen right away. Yes, we put a lot of pressure on us when these conversations need to happen, and we feel like we have to have it right away. But sometimes having a difficult conversation at the wrong time can blow things up. It could definitely create a very awkward relationship dynamic. And so finding that balance between timing and setting is super helpful in saying the hard things the right way. Um, so some things need to be addressed immediately. And like they say, you got to nip it in the bud. But some things also may need a little bit of thought because you may not even be emotionally ready to have that conversation because you might still be upset, you might be irritated, and you could be the person that blows up the conversation. So, but given the situation a little bit of time and preparation could put you in a better place to handle the conversation and some of the unexpected things that could happen. The third thing that I took away from that situation, which I've tried to practice more and more, is to listen. Now, listening when you're having a difficult conversation is as important as having the as important as what you say. So said, hey, just want to talk through something that's been on my mind, and when you did ABC, this is how it came across, and want to create that awareness so that we can work better together going forward. And paused and asked, is there something you would like to share with me? Is there something that you would like for me to know? Listen, just by opening that door, some things were shared that I did not know, that I wasn't aware of, that were informing that behavior. And it was helpful for me to know. And I also felt like I was heard. And my goal was not to ask for an apology or even an acknowledgement of my perspective, or a behavior change immediately. My goal was to create awareness and encourage behavior change, which, as things were being said and I felt the urge to explain and correct, I just said, Jay, your goal is to create awareness about the behavior that you would like to encourage behavior change about. And I kept going back to my goal, which helped me be less prone to explaining and keeping the conversation dragging on. And I count that success. I count that success because I accomplished my goal. My goal was clear and I accomplished it. But it happened because I had a clear goal going into the conversation. I looked for the right timing and setting, and I listened as much as I spoke, which I think definitely helped make the situation go better. Now, I'm not done having difficult conversations, and I am going to try to remember to practice this. And I want to share this with you so that as you come up with conversations, difficult conversations, have clear goals. Think through what exactly is bothering you, what exactly you would like to convey, and what outcomes are you looking for in the conversation. And when you think of outcomes, think of the things that you can control. Think of outcomes that you can control, and don't focus or put your effort into trying to change that other person's behavior as much as focusing on what you can control. That will minimize frustration on your end. And then I would say, as much as possible, listen as much as you speak. It will create a great dynamic because when people feel heard, they're less likely to be defensive, and you know things get things will go much better. I hope you found this helpful. And if there's any way that I could be of help, please don't hesitate to reach out. As always, I believe in you, and I hope you believe in yourself too. I'll see you on the next one.